Top thingy. After days of pouting about homelessness, the left is moving to evict Governor Andrew Cuomo from office following the Attorney General's report that being Italian is a crime. Here's Nesquik host and guy in the airplane seat to your left hitting on the woman to your right, Greg Kelly.
I believe him. I do. It would be very easy for me to jump on the bandwagon right now and say, bad guy, oh, he had it coming to him. He was anti-Kavanaugh, by the way, another man who was treated horrifically. I'm not going to do it because I believe him, and I've been around long enough, and I know stuff that happens, and I can see a freaking witch hunt when it happens. And that's what's happening here.
Goddamn right, frickin' witch hunt. It was cruel as shit when they handed those witches 170-page reports with decisive evidence they did magic. Here to discuss is esteemed professor, philosopher, author, and activist Cornel West. What's going on, Doc?
Whoa, I'm just glad to be in the conversation, though, and we want to always be as sensitive as we can to people who are mistreated, no matter who they are, no matter what color, no matter what gender or sexual orientation.
Well, we'll see if we agree on that. Now, let me ask you, Doctor, do the revelations about Governor Cuomo make you question your preconceived notion that people in power are pure-hearted angels appointed by God?
No, we are all cracked vessels, and at best we trying to love our crooked neighbor with our crooked heart, no, brother. So all of us have gangster proclivities. No doubt about that. I'm not surprised when any human being gets caught doing something they shouldn't do, including myself.
It's so inspiring to see Republicans like Greg Kelly show true conservative values, like hating women more than hating Democrats.
Now look, I believe women.
All right.
Democrats need to stop eating their own.
Now, some will say it's hypocritical of Republicans to call for Cuomo's resignation because we protected Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz, also Brett Kavanaugh, and Donald Trump.
Say your point. Just say your point.
Okay, those guys are different because they're different guys. I could understand if they were the same, but these are different guys. Different. You see?
Fucking A, right? And moving on, the White House continues to encourage states and businesses to mandate vaccination, completely forgetting that it's their body, their choice during the 3 hours Americans get to go home from work each day. The White House push prompted 95% shoulders Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to say this.
If you are trying to lock people down, I am standing in your way, and I'm standing for the people of Florida. So why don't you do your job? Why don't you get this border secure? And until you do that, I don't want to hear a blip about COVID from you.
He's right. If we could just secure the border, all those people on ventilators might finally feel safe enough to breathe again. Now let's pivot to our Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, announcing he's considering mandating vaccination for active duty troops. Now, Dr. West, what kind of country needlessly puts their troops in harm's way by giving them the vaccine?
Well, it's a good question, though, man. We've got to make sure that everybody's protected in uniform and not in uniform, but we also have to make sure that when we use those troops, we've got moral motivation behind it, though, man. Too often these U.S. troops are sent for reasons that are thoroughly unconvincing when it comes to any sense of morality, and they pay the cost, not we civilians, though, man.
Forget the shots. Just have our servicemen and women stand 6 feet apart. Cuts down on COVID and also the insane rates of sexual assault.
You know, this sets a bad precedent. The government should not dictate the healthcare choices of our military. That authority belongs to the aerospace companies that make our Mach 3 pilot decapitating fighter jets.
Great point. Now, moving on, the radical left that controls the entire Democratic Party was defeated by the Democratic Party it controls, as progressive candidates have now lost the Virginia gubernatorial primary, the New York City mayoral primary, and this week's special election in Ohio. After losing her Ohio primary, Nina Turner said she was committed to continuing to spy on the needs of her constituents like a total perv.
I am going to work hard to ensure that something like this never happens to a progressive candidate again.
Wow, she's so out of touch with everyday Americans in charge of super PAC disbursements. Dr. West, you supported Nina Turner's candidacy. Can you accept that the people have spoken and they want candidates with millions of ad dollars and a compliant media behind them, all spouting focus-tested buzzwords to scare them?
Well, I was blessed to support my dear sister Nina Turner. She's a powerhouse, but that big corporate money that came in at the last moment spreading lies, my brother, nothing but lies on Nina Turner. We have to have politicians that could stand in the face of big money and focus on poor and working people's plight.
You gotta admire how the Dem machine got behind Shontel Brown. They learned their lesson after only piling up $220 million for Jamie Harrison and Amy McGrath.
Now let's see. Pull up our Democratic Civil War map. Thank you. Now here are the districts held by more centrist Democrats, and here are the districts held by members of the Progressive Rebellion Forces. Wow, what a symmetric, fair fight. Just straight up, evenly matched battle in the marketplace of ideas. Now moving on, Dr. West, you passed up the coolest shit opportunity to keep Alan Dershowitz as your esteemed colleague and decided to leave Harvard. Your resignation letter spit straight fire, reading in part, when my committee recommended a tenure review, also rejected by the Harvard administration, I knew my academic achievements and student teaching meant far less than their political prejudices. Please explain, and don't say something divisive like Palestinians deserve not to be bulldozed.
No, we've got to be committed to the motto of Harvard, veritas, truth. And the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. And that's true whether it's the suffering of landless peasants in Brazil, whether it's Jews in Russia, whether it's Palestinians under Israeli occupation, whether it's poor whites in Appalachia, whether it is black folk on the south side of Chicago catching hell. Police.
Conveniently, no mention about Cherry Garcia-starved Israeli youth.
I think this would all be solved if Jared Kushner's dad donated a building called the Kushner Center for the opposite of spiritual rot.
No way. I don't believe that a school whose former president said women have tiny cutie pie little baby brains when it comes to science would conduct itself this way.
That's true. That's true. That was the other president that ran me out 20 years ago. So I've got a history of wrestling with Harvard presidents. There's no doubt about it. But there's a lot of good people at Harvard. No doubt about it. It's just that the presidents oftentimes don't end up being as visionary and courageous as you would think.
Doctor, when did you first realize the $38 billion corporation you worked for prized money above integrity?
Oh, I knew that all the time. But I also knew there's a lot of precious students and faculty there who are doing a good job. When I was there at Harvard 50 years ago, it was much more centered on the students and the quality of life of students. Now it's a matter of the big professor teaching one class and being much more tied to publicity outside. I insisted on teaching 4. I actually taught 5 courses a year.
I eat 5 courses a day.
They need that money. It takes a lot of overhead for professors to check if a struggling student's last name is on the Forbes list to make sure it's okay to give them a D.
That's right. Now, some conspiracy theorists have started this insane rumor that the reasoning behind you resigning from Harvard and Professor Nicole Hannah-Jones refusing tenure at UNC are actually both related to some big, mysterious, systemic problem that exists everywhere. Can you please put those rumors to bed?
Oh, let all rumors be put to bed if you think that racism is dead, that racism operates at Harvard, at every other institution. It's just that you got a lot of decent people at Harvard of all colors who are willing to fight against it.
I don't know. How could Harvard be morally corrupt if Jeffrey Epstein proudly wore one of their sweatshirts? And that's not doctored, folks.